I'm 49, married, and a mother of two. At least, I thought I was a mother of two. Turns out, life had other plans. This story really starts when I was 24. I was a mess back then, barely holding down a job, no real family support, and pregnant from a guy who vanished the second he found out. I don't need to justify my decision, but I will say it. Putting that baby up for adoption broke something in me that never really healed. Fast forward to now. I have a good life, a kind husband, Mark, 2 kids, Alex, who's 21, and Emma, who's 17. Stable job, decent home, quiet neighborhood. Everything's neat, tucked away, predictable. Until last week. Emma had been acting weird for months, more secretive than usual. She kept asking me questions that felt pointed. Things like, did you ever think about having more kids? Or do you ever regret big decisions? I chalked it up to teen hormones and shrugged it off. Then, one evening, I came home from work and there was a girl in my kitchen. A woman, I should say, probably in her mid-20s, standing next to my daughter, drinking tea out of my mug like it belonged to her. I thought maybe she was one of Emma's college friends visiting early or something, but something about her face made me stop cold. She looked like me, or more specifically, like a version of me I hadn't seen in 24 years. Emma saw my expression and immediately started talking too fast, like she'd been rehearsing this moment. She told me she'd found someone online and had been messaging her for months. That someone was the daughter I had given up. Her name is Riley. She's 24, and she's been living in our house for 5 days. I didn't even sit down. I just stood there in the doorway, keys still in my hand, looking at this stranger, this daughter, trying to figure out if I was dreaming. My stomach dropped. My mouth was dry, and Emma, bless her heart, was still talking, still trying to smooth everything over like this was just another day in our lives. She said Riley had reached out to her on social media, that she'd been curious about my past, and after doing some digging, whatever that means, she found adoption forums and eventually tracked down Riley. She never meant to keep it a secret, she said. But once she connected with Riley and started liking her, she got scared I'd shut it all down if I knew, and maybe she was right. Riley just stood there, calm as anything, like this was totally normal, like she belonged here. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't get a single word out. I just nodded, understood, then turned around and walked straight into my bedroom. Mark came home an hour later and found me sitting on the edge of the bed, still in my coat. I didn't even tell him what happened. Emma did. He was furious, not for the reason I expected. He wasn't mad that Riley was in our house. He was mad I never told him I had another daughter. We've been married for 19 years. 19, and somehow I had convinced myself that what happened before we met didn't need to be shared. I was so young, so ashamed of the whole thing. I truly believed that part of my life was over, a sealed box in the back of my mind. But here it was, cracked open on our kitchen floor, drinking tea. Mark left the room. I didn't even follow him. The next morning, I figured Riley would be gone. I thought maybe it was a one-night awkward reunion, and she'd vanish back into her own life. Instead, I came downstairs to find her making pancakes, while Emma sat on the counter laughing like they were best friends. She even used my recipe, the one Emma always begged me to make on Sunday. When I asked what was going on, Emma looked at me like I was the intruder. She told me Riley had nowhere to stay, that she was in between apartments, and she had invited her with us for a few weeks. Invited her to live in my house. Without asking me, I told Riley we needed to talk. Alone. We sat in the living room, and I finally got to say the words I'd held back for 24 years. That I was sorry, that it had broken me, that I had loved her, even if I didn't raise her, that I wasn't ready for this. Any of it. She just smiled and said, I know. I asked if her parents knew she was here, and she shrugged, said things were complicated. That was the moment I started to realize something wasn't right, and the real twist? I was already too late. That whole day, I felt like a guest in my own home. Riley was everywhere, lounging on the couch in my slippers, chatting with Mark like they were old friends, playing board games with Emma at the kitchen table. And me? I just hovered around the edges, pretending to be okay, pretending I wasn't unraveling inside. Mark was being civil, but distant. I could tell he was still angry I never told him about Riley. He didn't say it outright, but it hung in the air between us, this quiet disappointment. He kept giving me these half-looks, like he didn't recognize me anymore. Later that night, I went into Emma's room and told her we needed to talk. I asked her how long she and Riley had been in contact. She said almost 6 months. 6 months. My daughter had been messaging the sister she never knew about for half a year, and never said a word. Then I asked why she let Riley into our house without telling me first. She didn't even hesitate. She just said, because you wouldn't have let her come. And she was right. I wouldn't have. Not like this. Not without preparing myself. Not without knowing who Riley really was. But Emma didn't get that. She sees everything in black and white. Curiosity, reunion, happy endings. I don't blame her, really. She's still a kid, but I'm not. That night, after everyone went to bed, I went into the guest room, my guest room, to get Riley's suitcase. I just wanted to see how serious this was, if she was really in between apartments, or if this was something more permanent. What I found made my blood run cold. There were 2 suitcases, not one, both completely unpacked. Clothes folded neatly in the dresser, makeup arranged on the vanity like she'd been here for weeks. A framed photo of her and Emma on the nightstand, a photo I had never seen before. That's when I opened the top drawer. Inside were documents, her birth certificate, a printed copy of her adoption records, and beneath all that, a page I instantly recognized. It was a screenshot of my old Facebook profile from 2011, the year Emma was born. That account had been deleted for over a decade. I hadn't thought about it in years, but apparently Riley had. She had printed it out, studied it. This wasn't a casual reunion. This was a plan. I stood there for what felt like forever, staring at that drawer, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I knew then that Riley hadn't come here just to meet me. She came here to be me. The next day, I played it cool. Smiled, made coffee, even laughed at one of Riley's stories. But inside, I was watching everything, every move, every word. And the more I watched, the more I realized how calculated she really was. She knew exactly how to work her way in. She'd memorized my old interests, the kind of jokes I used to post online, even the way I decorate. When I told her I liked the scented candle she lit in the bathroom, she smiled and said, "Figured you would. It's the same brand you used to love back in the day, right?" I hadn't used that brand since 2012. Emma was still head over heels. She and Riley were inseparable, watching movies, baking together, going for late-night drives. Emma even started calling her Riles. They were lifelong sisters. Mark seemed cautiously warming up to her, too. He told me over dinner that Riley reminded him really choked on my food. That night, I went into the garage and dug out the fireproof box of important documents, birth certificates, marriage license, medical files. It had been opened. Everything inside looked normal, except one thing. Our will. The original copy was missing. We're not rich, but Mark and I have some savings. Enough to matter. The will splits everything equally between Emma and, in the case of something happening to all of us, our nieces. Riley wasn't mentioned for obvious reasons, but someone had been looking for it. And then, like clockwork, things started changing in the house. Riley offered to take over more responsibilities. She started grocery shopping for us, organizing Emma's school calendar, even reminding Mark about his dental appointments. I should have been grateful for the help, but instead it felt like I was slowly being erased, like she was taking over a role that already belonged to me. The final straw. Yesterday morning I overheard Emma on the phone with her grandma, Mark's mom. She was gushing about Riley, talking about how wonderful she was, how natural she felt in the family. Then I heard her say something that made my hands go cold. "She's way more like Mom than Mom is." I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. But that night, I checked Riley's suitcase again, just to be sure. This time, I found a USB drive tucked inside a pair of socks. I plugged it into my laptop. What I saw made my heart slam against my chest. There were files, dozens of them, screenshots, journals, PDFs. One folder was titled Plan B, and what was inside? A document, petition for adult adoption, dated 3 weeks ago, signed by Riley and Emma. I sat in the dark with the glow of that screen burning into my eyes, reading the document over and petition for adult adoption, filed under my husband's name, Mark. Riley had filled out everything. She listed her birth date, her adoptive parents' information and address, our address. She stated that she was seeking to be adopted as a symbolic gesture of permanent family inclusion, and at the bottom of the form, Emma's signature and Mark's. I didn't even feel anger at first, just a kind of numb, slow-burning disbelief. My own daughter and my husband had signed a legal document to adopt the daughter I had placed for adoption without even telling me. I started shaking. My ears were ringing. It felt like grief, but not the kind you feel when someone dies. This was the grief of watching people you love choose someone else right in front of you. When Mark came home then, I didn't wait. I asked him if he had anything to tell me. He paused for a second, just a second too long, and said no. That's when I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshot. His face dropped. Then he said the words I'll never forget. "I was going to tell you, eventually." Like that made it better, like it wasn't a complete betrayal. He told me Riley had the idea of being adopted to the family, just symbolically, nothing official, just something to make her feel like she finally belonged And Mark thought it was sweet. He said he was just trying to do the right thing and didn't want to hurt me, but he still didn't tell me. He still went behind my back. He said Emma was the one who he believed it would help heal that I'd come around once I saw how much Riley wanted. Apparently, they were planning to surprise me. The adoption, graduation, it was some kind of birthday. That's when I lost it. I told Mark, calmly, with every ounce of steel I had left, that I wanted Riley gone, not later, now, that I had done the hard thing 24 years ago, and I wasn't going to let my life because no one in this house respected. He told me I was overreacting. He said Riley wasn't just some random girl, that she was my daughter, and more importantly now, their family too. He told me if I made him choose between me and her, I wouldn't like his answer. And then he walked out, back to the living room, back to Riley. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The petition, the signatures, Mark's words, Emma's face when she defended Riley over me. I felt like a stranger in my own house. I started packing a bag around 3 a.m., just enough to get away for a while. I didn't have a plan, but I couldn't stay in that house another night. Not with Riley sleeping in the guest room like she belonged. Not with my own husband siding with a girl he'd known for less than a month. But before I left, I made one last stop. The USB drive. There were still folders I hadn't opened. I didn't want to, but something in me needed to know. Needed the full picture before I walked away from what I built. The last folder was titled Journal. Inside were dated entries. Not typed. Scans of handwritten pages. All from Riley. The earliest ones were what you'd expect. Notes about her childhood. Questions about her birth mother, her search process. But as the dates got closer to now, they took a turn. She wrote about how she'd been watching me for years, following my social media before I deleted it, tracking down Emma's profiles, learning about our family, memorizing birthday. She wrote about how she resented me for living a full life without her, how I had another daughter, how I smiled in family photos. She called me a thief. She said she should have had the life Emma got, the dad, the house, the Christmas mornings, the inside jokes, the legacy, and she was going to take it back. Not just visit, replace. I stopped felt sick. This wasn't a reunion. This wasn't healing. This was something else. Something calculated. Possessive. I printed one page, just one, and left it on Mark's nightstand with a note that said, "Read this, then decide who you're protecting." Then I left. I stayed with a friend for a few days, didn't answer calls or texts. Emma messaged me constantly, begging me to come back, saying Riley was confused and didn't mean anything by it, that families fight, but this could all be fixed. Mark never called. Then yesterday I got a message from him. One line. She's gone. Turns out he did read the page, and the rest. He said Riley left that night without a word. No forwarding address. No goodbye. Emma is heartbroken. Blames me. Says I ruined it. That she lost a sister, and maybe she did. Maybe we all lost something. But not me. I didn't lose a daughter. I made an impossible choice 24 years ago, and I've lived with the weight of it every single day since. But I made that choice to give Riley a better life, not to lose the one I built since. She didn't want a mother. She wanted revenge. And if I hadn't found that folder, if I hadn't pulled back the curtain, I think she might have gotten exactly what she came for. I don't know where she is now. And honestly, I don't think I want to. All I know is this. Not everything you lose is a tragedy. Sometimes it's survival.